Shalom and welcome to everybody. We want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We're excited. I'm here live with Norm Schultz and Heather Johnston, and it's done over the last 10 years. I mean, Norm, it's been an amazing journey.
John, it really has. It's been one of the most exciting things I've been a part of my whole life, is be a part of the story. It's one miracle after another, and tonight we get to tell that story.
Indeed, and 10 years, Heather, tell us about it. How do you feel after 10 years?
I feel like I'm 10 years older. I think that it's just remarkable as I think about the audience with us tonight that have an extraordinary journey. Not only have you come to Israel with us, many of you, but you're telling the story yourself. And it is just wonderful to have a moment to try to recall where we've been.
You know, God in His Word, one thing that's very important to Him is that we remember what He's done. We remember His goodness. In Deuteronomy chapter 8, the children of Israel are about to step into their land of promise. And like 4 or 5 times in that passage, God says, don't forget only remember what I've done. He reminds them over and over. And personally, I think maybe one of the greatest sins of success is amnesia. We forget where God has brought us from. And so we're excited. And tonight, you're going to hear from some of our leaders. You're going to hear from some of our team, some key people who've been on this journey with us. And before we go any further, what I'd love for you to do is right there on the YouTube channel, would you just in the chat area, let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, because we want this to be sort of collaborative. We want to hear from you. We want you to be with us and know where you're coming from. Also, you'll have an opportunity to join and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We would really love that because we can keep you apprised of events and things that, are happening as they unfold. Today is a special day. Not only are we going to take a look at how God is impacting the world through JH Israel and the National Leadership Center, but we want to celebrate 10 years of impacting the next generation of Israel's leaders at the center. The National Leadership Center there in Ariel has been a diamond in the rough for not only the region of Judea and Samaria, but actually for the nation of Israel at large. We have consistently seen student after student impacted by the programs at the NLC, and you're going to get to hear some of their stories tonight. Folks, we're currently in high schools across the nation. We are impacting now and working with the Israeli Defense Force and all of the other agencies. There's been an increase in what's amazing. We've had consistent growth in this COVID-19 world that we all find ourselves trying to navigate in. It is truly special. What we want to do right now is just highlight some of the high points over the last 10 years. Take a look at this video with us. Wow, was that not incredible?
It really is amazing. And it's just the tip of the iceberg, John. Only the beginning of the lives that have been impacted by the National Leadership Center. We're living in unprecedented times. And I believe this generation in Israel is going to clearly understand their purpose and what it means to relate to God in a personal way.
Absolutely. And this story is about a group of people, thousands who've gone through this leadership center, but truly it is a story of one person at a time. And I want to share with you the story of a young man named Amate who was profoundly impacted by his time at the National Leadership Center. If we can, let's roll that video.
I have fear of heights, and before I came here, I couldn't stand on like, I don't know, a wall like 2 feet. We talk here about a lot of heroes in the Tanakh, and you can see that people before you, they had the same fears and the same problems, maybe as you, and it helped you to get rid of them or fight them. Well, I grew up like every other kid. I went to school, I went to high school, I'm in high school. Every person have his own fear. When I came here, it all changed, because you learn here to become a part of the group. There are people here that help you to become a better person, to fight your fear. And for me, it was amazing. It changed like 180 degrees, and I become a better person. It helped me to believe in myself. It helped me to trust myself, trust other people that help me, and it helps you to help other people. This is a great place. You can learn new things here. You can understand what you really are, and you can fight your fears here. You just become a better person here.
Amazing. Amate is really just one of thousands whose lives have been changed, and you've been a part of that story. And now Heather is going to give us an update on what's happening right now, the current events that actually pertain to biblical prophecy, things in the nation, things that are happening in the world. It's amazing what's going on.
Thank you, John. As we stand amid a challenged election season in the U.S. at a time when the world is convulsing and there is a lot of uncertainty, and some of us are definitely a lot older than we were in January and more humble, it is a convenient time to draw back and remind ourselves that we are at a crossroads in history. If you zoom out just a bit, you get a happier perspective. You can sort things out better and realize that we are actually not unhinged. We're not flying around with just one wing, and that while our endurance is tested, there is an order amid the chaos, and that God is highly capable, reliable, and trustworthy. We tend to see our own nation as an entity unto itself, on its own time clock, individuated and separate, and certainly nations have their own unique identity, but perhaps it's more accurate to see the nation of Israel as not only the mediator of God's eternal covenant, but it's like the sun in orbit with the nations revolving around her, including our own nation. The biblical land of Judea and Samaria is central to what the prophet Ezekiel and others saw as an outpouring of God's Spirit on the nation of Israel. Chapter 36 clearly says, "I will take out your heart of stone, and I will give you a heart of flesh. I will put a new spirit within you." Zechariah the prophet saw Jerusalem being elevated as a divine center for worship among the nations. Chapter 8, 22 and 23 says, "Many powerful men will seek the Lord in Jerusalem and entreat his favor there." From out of Jerusalem, the prophet Joel saw God's Spirit being poured out on all flesh. To study the scriptures, you see that the spiritual regeneration of Israel is somehow mysteriously wrapped up with the details about the land of Israel and taking possession of the land. Some might say that this is zany theology wedded to a political agenda, but the scriptures tell the true story. Most recently, the Abraham Accords opened the promise for a new and more promising Middle East, along with Israel being able to collaborate with regional partners in areas of business, commerce, diplomacy, technology, and industry. There are now up to 10 other nations who are interested in normalizing relations with Israel. Did we ever imagine that we would see that day? This was anticipated by Isaiah, that the kings will come to Israel. They will come to your light and to the rising of your dawn. The kings will be your foster fathers. The queens will be your nursing mothers. And the kings will serve you. The forecast is that Israel will become attractive to the nations commercially as a trading partner. All of these important developments show the rise of modern Israel at a whole new level. But perhaps most importantly, these events draw the nations to consider God's perspective toward the Jews. And that is really important in our day and age. God anticipated a generation of people who would actually see with their eyes the prophecies of Israel unfold, and they would participate and cooperate with God to see them realized. God anticipated the indispensable role that the Gentiles would play, not only in the physical restoration of modern Israel, but in the restoring of the spiritual identity of the nation. God did not bring Israel back into the land just to give them safety or to make them a technological forerunner in the nations or a defense expert, but to restore their spiritual identity. One's identity only takes on meaningful significance when it is validated by the other. And that is why Jeremiah said, there will be a day when the watchman or the Gentile branch or believers will cry out on the hills of Samaria, and they will say unto you, O Israel, let us go up to the Lord our God. On this premise, Bruce and I initiated a vision 10 years ago to see a whole generation of youth in Israel step into their spiritual biblical identity. We saw an important question that needed to be answered both on a personal level and nationally. Why are you here? What is your purpose? And it was on that premise that we partnered with the late Mayor Ron Nachman in the city of Ariel to build what is now Israel's National Center for Leadership on the hills of Samaria. Families like the Pilot family from Mobile and Musette and Alan Morgan and others helped us start the building of what has now become Israel's national site for leadership training. It is clear, whether in the United States or in Israel or any nation, that secularism provides no transformational answers for life's most important questions. This point of view shrinks dreams, it limits possibilities, it builds God out of the world, and this is obviously not sustainable for a nation living in a covenant with God. Secularism is the opposite of the new spirit that God promised Israel. If God is the giver of one's identity, then to be a stranger to him is to be a stranger to oneself. It is not tenable for Israel to hold an abstract view of God and never put their trust in him. And it doesn't allow them to fulfill that prophecy to be a light for all nations. So the leaders of Israel are faced with needing to provide their society with more and more opportunities to discover for themselves how to relate to God in a personal way. And the good news is that that's happening. A cultural shift is taking place in the modern state of Israel today, and most people don't know about it unless they are intimately involved in the unfolding story of Israel. The award-winning content that we wrote called Take 5, Becoming a Leader is now broadly facilitated in schools across the nation of Israel, as well as at the National Leadership Center. This content employs Israel's biblical leaders like Joshua and Caleb, Deborah and King David, as a lens through which to look at your own life and to discover how to relate personally to God, to understand yourself, and then being able to relate to the other. But it took the lion of a man, Iran Glaser, to actuate this vision in Israel. He has been a perfect ambassador, a spiritual leader inside the nation of Israel today, bringing more than 85,000 Israelis through this unique leadership training experience in the last 7 years. The history of JH Israel has been nothing short of miraculous, involving a series of unforgettable dates. It was on 7/7/07 that Mayor Ron Nachman, having gone through a week-long program at JH Ranch, climbing on ropes courses with mild cussing, shook hands with us across a table and agreed to establish a national leadership center in the city. It was on 8/8/08 that a senior level group of Ministry of Education leaders shook hands across the table with us at J.H. Ranch in California and agreed to bring the biblical identity content into the schools of Israel, not just as a history lesson, but as a spiritual, vibrant content for debate and discussion. That is a miracle. We worked with them to do this. They also later agreed to contract with us to give the National Leadership Center in REL the singular licensing agreement for experiential learning around the biblical identity and discovering one's life purpose. This opened the door for more than 85,000 students to attend the leadership training there. It was the week of 9/9/09 when our U.S. President Barack Obama pressured Israel to freeze all building in Judea and Samaria. One exception was made, which was the National Leadership Center in REL. We received from Ehud Barak, Israel's defense minister, the full licensing agreement to build the National Leadership Center on 140 acres on the hillside of Samaria in the city of REL. The unfolding of this vision has been dramatic. None of it would have happened without the support of Eli Shaviro, the current mayor of REL, who has partnered with us to go to new heights. And of course, we are indebted to the late mayor, Ron Nachman, my mentor and friend, who led the way for Israel to settle Samaria, and whose passionate leadership and sacrifice for the nation opened the doors for him to leave as his legacy a whole new generation of leaders for Israel. I want to personally thank you for being on this journey with us. Thank you for your prayers and sacrifice to make this broad national leadership vision for the state of Israel a reality. We would not be anywhere without the support of our partners and friends, those who have prayed intently into this vision for now a decade. God made the Jewish state a visible monument of his grace and power, an eternal tribute to his absolute faithfulness, and a sign of his willingness to partner with us to keep on building it. And that is what we will do. We will keep on building. It is our honor to be doing it with you at this crossroads in history.
Amazing. I tell you, someone else who's been part of the story is our good friend Chris Mitchell. Chris serves as the bureau chief for the Mideast for CBN News, and he's been with us every step of the way since our inception 10 years ago, and he's prepared a special report from his vantage point about what's happened at the NLC over the last decade.
10 years ago, CBN News began to cover a story set here in the hills of ancient Samaria, part of Israel's biblical heartland. It began a partnership between Jews and Christians in building a one-of-a-kind training center here in the heart of Israel. Here's a look back at our story from 2010. These young Israelis are having fun, but it's fun with a purpose.
You learn things about yourself that you didn't know before, you overcome fears, and it just makes you better.
It will be the center for youth leadership in Israel.
Ariel Mayor Ron Nachman is excited to welcome the new training center to this part of Israel's biblical heartland.
There's nothing like that in Israel, and the concept is the key, is the essence of everything. It's not just climbing the high ropes or something like that. No. Beyond it, there is a whole theory of a concept of how to enrich the child, boy or girl, how to enrich a leader, how to enrich a community, how to enrich a country.
The concept uses physical challenges, teamwork, and the Bible to teach principles of leadership. This all began when kids from Ariel visited a Christian retreat center in the U.S. called J.H. Ranch.
And when the children came back from the ranch, they changed their whole behavior. And mother said to me, what I did not succeed to do with my child in the last 16 years, you did it in 2 weeks.
It's the perfect outdoor classroom.
Heather Johnston and her husband Bruce direct the J.H. Ranch. They suggested the idea to Nachman of a national training center for Israel's youth.
He agreed that maybe this would be a great idea. And so he came to J.H. Ranch, and he is the one who really has birthed the vision in the nation of Israel.
The program, endorsed by Israel's Ministry of Education, is based on the characters of the Hebrew Bible.
Leaders like Abraham and Moshe and Esther and all of these leaders that really rose up at climactic times in Israel's history, how did they relate to God?
Israelis want to develop what they describe as a Joshua generation.
A generation that can come forth with a real new dynamic inside themselves, a spirit of courage and of faith in God, and an understanding of who they are in relation to themselves, the nation, and also the world.
The Leadership Center is just a few months old, and so far several hundred have attended the course, but the eventual goal is for thousands, and then tens of thousands of Israelis to go through the center. Nachman says developing the center has been a remarkable partnership of Christians and Jews.
Without the connection, I would say, and the connection and the relationship between us and our friends, the Christians in the United States, I could not raise this park.
The center has already had an impact on the kids.
If you want to enrich the young boy or girl, you need to give them some values that they will escort them to the rest of their life.
Ten years later, the goal of tens of thousands has been met. In fact, 85,000 have gone through the center. The late mayor of Ariel, Ron Nachman, a man of legendary zeal and energy, has tragically passed away, but his vision for the National Center lived on. It not only fulfilled his vision, but many see it as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
If you've been around the NLC or know anything about us, then you know Iran Glazer. Iran is sort of our field marshal. He's the director, boots on the ground every single day, in and out in Ariel at the National Leadership Center. And he and Norm are actually going to give us an update together about what's happening right now from his vantage point there in Israel.
And now I want to take you to the National Leadership Center and introduce you to our Executive Director, Iran Glazer. Iran is standing by. And Iran, wasn't that amazing to hear what God has done over these last 10 years at the National Leadership Center?
Thank you, Norm. What a great report. Chris Mitchell is becoming one of our best friends from the beginning. We like him very much, and I hope that we can continue to cooperate with him in the future. Thank you very much. You know, Norm, through the way, we have a lot of partners that coming to work with us, help support us. And it's amazing because this journey cannot be without all the people that are around us.
So Iran, tell us who the partners are that we're working with so closely.
We have Ministry of Education coming to be with us. We have the Ministry of Defense. We have the IDF. A lot of people come and support us, and a lot of friends supporting this vision, which is so important for us to create this partnership. One of the biggest and the greatest partners is Mayor Eli Shviro. Mayor Eli Shviro become our biggest supporter, and is feeling that what we are doing here in the National Leadership Center in the hills of Samaria, doing amazing thing for the city of Ariel. Couple of days ago, I met Mayor Eli here in the National Leadership Center, and I would like to show you a video that we did for that day. Let's go to see that. Shalom, Mayor Eli, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
We are celebrating 10 years of the established the NLC.
I'm proud to be here.
Thank you.
But first of all, I want to say some word to special people, Heather and Bruce, all the staff and all the donors that give us money to build all these facilities. I want to say thank you very much. This is the crown of the city. A lot of people come here, a lot of children come here, and here we will build the new leader of new generation.
Thank you, Eli. I think it's very important to stand here as partners, and you are leading us. And so, first of all, thank you for your leadership. I think in the time that you elected to be the mayor, the NLC will grow and be something very significant in the states of Israel. Can you tell me why you think it's important? What's happening here in your perspective as a mayor that contribute to the city or to the state?
You know, we're looking for a place that we can teach children to be leader. to teach children to get value. And this is the place. This is the place that we can bring them here and teach them, and to grow with all these facilities, especially because we speak about the leaders of the Bibles. These leaders cross over the world, Jewish, Christians, Muslims, and this is the most important place that we can do it with all the people. If I can see what I see in my dream, I see a lot of facilities here. I see parents and children come here and do together all these things. And I believe that from this place, the new leaders in Israel and maybe in the world, in all the world, will grow from this place.
Thank you very much, Eli. For the end of this interview, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you in a personal way for what you are doing here in the hills of Samaria. What you are doing for Israel is very important, and what you are doing for the city is inspiring.
I want to thank you because you are the right person in the right place, and I believe that together we can grow and grow.
Aron, that was fantastic. To think about where we've gone in our relationship with Mayor Eli, it was a relationship that's really formed into a very close partnership. To hear him say it's the crown jewel of the city, and then to visualize parents and teens in the future and growth, we are really set for this next stage of growth, and I'm so excited. And Aron, very well done.
Yes, Norm, it was a good visit, and Eli is coming every couple of days to the NLC. He's doing here meetings, giving updates, and I really appreciate all the efforts and the time that the mayor invests in this place. One of the people that is really a great supporter of what we are doing is Erez. Erez is a principal in a high school in Jerusalem. And Erez came here a couple of times with a different classroom. Erez believed that we are doing a change. I would like to show you a little what Erez thinks about what we are doing here in the National Leadership Center in Ariel. Erez, shalom, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you to host me in your house.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You are a principal in a high school, right, in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
How many years?
For 6 years, almost 6 years, I'm principal in a mid and high school that combine religious and non-religious students in Jerusalem.
I understood that you have been a couple of times in our place.
Yeah.
How many times?
More than 10.
More than 10
Yeah.
times you came to the Leadership
Yeah.
Center.
I decided that every student that get into my school will be part of that.
And what is the reason?
It's speaking to the students, to the children, to the teachers. There is 2 points, I think, that there are the core points, the main points. The first is leadership.
Yes.
Leadership, I think our society is thirsty to leadership. Our society need leadership, need a moral leadership. Maybe than ever that our society needed. And when I say leadership, I say leadership now, leadership that we get from the Bible also, with example from the Bible. The second thing is working together. Is the ability to know that you have power, to know that you have to give from your abilities, from your power to the group, and to know how to let the group help you. And that's the 2 reasons that I decided every student has to do it.
Erez is one of the educators that becoming our friends. Erez is a great supporter, but we have people that from the Ministry of Education support us, teachers and educators. They are coming here to do a training for themselves, and they are believing. The pandemic stopped us. COVID-19 was hard in Israel, it's still, but we are preparing. We are preparing with new facilities, we're preparing a new program and new relations. But I think the most important thing is the students. We have 85,000 students came from the beginning. Yes, it's a big number, but behind every number there is a student. Students that have dreams and have ideas about his future, and we help them. And I would like to hear one of these testimonies of student that was here in the program and how it's impacted their life. Let's hear that.
My name is Ocean Walach, and I'm from Eliel. When I was in 4th grade, I had a bully. He was new from our class, and I don't know why, but I got bullied by him. So ever since then, my confidence was very low, and I had a lot of issues with myself and with with like all my friends and my family ever since then. When I came here, like when I first saw this program, I was like, maybe I should sign, maybe I should not. I didn't know what to be expected for. It's more than friends, it's a family, and it's more than just to come here and like to experience things. It's for life. It's something that you can carry with for life. It's a value. Every day and every town that we're here, we learn something new about us, about our friends, about like the country we live in, and we learn some new values for life. And I think it's very important, like these days, that we need to hear to people, we need to listen to people and to understand what they're saying. My family is not religious, so when I came here, I was like finding more about God. Like it's gotten me stronger. I can't explain it really because it was something like crazy that happened to me, and I started to believing, like to re-believe in myself. כבד את אביך ואת אמך למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר נתן לך אדוני. That's like the one sentence that I will never forget. It's so like simple, so basic that I think it's supposed to be like for everyone, but some days we forget about it. It's like I can't explain it. It's like it's so inside of me that it's got me so inside of me that it's something like in the daily. I got stronger ever since. I got to meet a lot of sides of myself, and I got to meet some new people that just become my family. And I started to believe in God and Judaism, and I started to celebrate the holidays different and the Shabbat different, and it's amazing.
It's amazing. Ocean is one of the students that came here to the National Leadership Center for a day and changed her life, evaluate her life about her family, about her dreams, and we have here students that coming every day thinking about it.
So Ron, in a few minutes, we're going to look ahead to the years 21 and 22, but why don't we go back a little bit and look at the momentum we had in 2019.
2019, it was a great year for us. We finished this year with 10,000 students that came, 10,000 students, amazing number, from all of Israel, from the north and from the south, religious, new immigrants, Ethiopian, Russians, Arabics, everybody came from all of Israel to our plans. It's amazing to see how God is working. What is God doing?
And Ron, I remember when we finished that year and we celebrated the 10,000 students, we were thinking 2020 was going to be the biggest year ever, and then we heard that word, COVID-19. What has happened in 2020?
One of the amazing things that happened to us is through the COVID, the Ministry of Education start teaching by the web, online programs. And the Ministry of Education invite us to speak with the students about what we are doing here, about leadership from the Bible, about how the impact that we are helping to do. It is an amazing achievement, and we feel very good about the partnership with the Ministry of Education.
And Eran, you mentioned that the programs are growing. There's one particular one that you're excited about, and that is the Cadets program.
The Cadets is a program for students that have a council in their high school. We are going to them. Part of 2020 is going to the students to meet them before. We are not just a day of activity. Now we are a program. We are a program that's coming to the students before. We are coming to meet them here, and then the teacher is doing the debrief. It's a journey, because we believe that if you want to do something deep, you have to do a deep situation and a journey with the students to see them, what they are doing.
So Eran, as we begin to focus on 2021 and beyond, what do you see?
It's a different year. In our mind, we are going from being a local, we are going out. The idea is that we can have here 24,000 students. Yes, but there's opportunities for us to go to the high schools before and to do programs outside the Ariel. It's amazing. It's an opportunity that we can double and triple the amount of students that we can do activities. It's an amazing opportunity for us to go outside. This is creating a movement. We are becoming from local and beginning national. It's amazing, and I'm really excited about it. I feel there is urgent here. I'm feeling that something changed in Israel. I think the COVID brings us opportunities. I think people like more to be connected. I think the people in Israel looking for their roots, and I think we can provide that. We're bringing the story of the life of King David. We are bringing the story about Moses. We are bringing the story about Abraham. We are bringing the story about the Exodus. This is the new facilities. The Exodus is going out of Egypt through the modern Israel. And I think the modern Israel now these days preparing. Norm and Heather, this is the time from being from local, going outside and build what we want to build. We are going to start programs with the Ministry of Defense, programs that will take this one day for a program of 6 meetings, meetings with the educators before, meetings with the students in their high schools, 6 meetings. It's amazing how the impact of what we are delivering is going to be there. This is something that we are going to do. We are preparing for that. We have teams for that, and see how the Lord is working.
Eran, what a fantastic report. I hear the energy and passion in your voice, and you have led so well during these challenging times. It is clear to see God's favor on your life.
This is my report. I'm thinking and feeling that the Lord bless us. I'm feeling that I'm living under the smile of the Lord. It's such a blessing to serve with you all for the vision.
And as we've all sat here and watched this story today, it's an extraordinary journey to see how God has positioned one miracle after another. From a hill of rock, which we know are the hills of Samaria, to see a park that has all these activities able to serve up to 24,000 students a year. Also clear to see the prophetic significance of the National Leadership Center as it connects to the youth or this generation. We're celebrating 10 years. We're not only celebrating the National Leadership Center, we're celebrating what God has done, and we're also celebrating what's happening right now. And it's into this next phase that I want to invite you to pay special attention and to think how God might be speaking to you to be part of our journey moving forward. Think about the things we heard today. First of all, it's clear that God has positioned and appointed the leadership of this organization and of the National Leadership Center to carry us forward. It's also very clear that he's aligned us in a special way with our partners, from Mayor Eli in the city to the Ministry of Education, to the IDF or the Israeli Defense Forces, who are bringing many students to the National Leadership Center. It's also clear to see that our park has now been developed to be able to handle as many as 24,000 students in a year, and an invitation where we're being pulled into the schools to deliver the content even more intentionally. And finally, as we continue to grow, we are also preparing of the things we need to expand to be able to service all the opportunities we have. And what I'd like you to do, and most of you, as you're watching this, will have a book in front of you, or you will receive this booklet called The Road Ahead. And I would like to briefly walk you through it and finish my sort of walk through this book with an invitation to participate with us. To begin with, we're going to look at the years 2021 and 22. Inside this booklet, you'll find a grid which lays out sort of a roadmap of what we're anticipating to happen. As you look at 2021, you'll see that we're anticipating around 12,000 students. 2020 was a lower year due to the challenges of the virus. But we're anticipating 12,021, and then you'll notice just below that, we're anticipating a jump to 13,800. Now you may say that's a long ways from 24,000. It is, but we're being very careful and conservative because we are still in a season that's just a little uncertain. So how do we get to those students? What is the program and how is it accomplished? If you look at the previous page or on the screen in front of you, you'll see there's sort of 4 defined ages that have defined programs now connected to it. We have the 12 to 15-year-old students, which will begin to participate in our parent and teen program. We have the 15 to 18-year-olds, namely high school, which has been the core of our program, which we call Take 5. And then from 18 to 21, we're very integrated into a program that serves the Israeli Defense Forces, and now a growing program that'll connect with adults. Yes, as parents, but also educators and the police force, and on and on. And so now we have a mature lineup of programs for all those ages. Now, as you go across that grid, or you see the numbers in front of you, you'll see that the program costs, and I just want to be clear, these are the costs of the work in Israel. This is not the support office in the U.S., but this is 100% related to the work in Israel. You see that the cost there is $1,235,000 to deliver all of that for the year of 2021. And when you go to look at the next number, you'll see it's in a different color, and it says that there is funded, or the money has come in or will come in, of $700,000. So let me just park there. This is very significant. We, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, the Israeli Defense Forces, have agreements and contracts that creates a revenue stream that will equal up to $700,000 of our program costs. And so that money is from Israel to Israel. It is not a required amount that we need to raise from our partners and friends. But the next number, which is the gap or the funding from 700 to 1.2 million, is the money that we need to raise to operate effectively this next year. That number, as you can see, is $535,000. So for us, it is really important this year because there is an uncertainty. Typically, we would be on a tour with many of you, seeing the sites in Israel, being a part of powerful teaching, and visiting the National Leadership Center. And that has been our most strategic way to raise and the money needed to carry on the growth of the National Leadership Center. So this year, today is our tour. This is our tour for 2020. And we are looking for help towards that number. And if you take the line below, you can see how the numbers play out for 2022. And I won't go through them all, but they'll be clear in front of you on the screen or your booklet. As you turn over to the other side or see what we call the growth priorities, in addition to the operating, we have some growth priorities that we want you to be aware of. First of all, our prayer network. This whole movement, this whole vision has been founded and grounded on a prayer foundation of intercessors that pray regularly, consistently, and fervently. But we want to grow that, and we are trusting God to build a global network of 100,000 intercessors that pray 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, in all the time zones of the world. And we're well on our way, and we need some help to fuel that movement of intercessors. As you look at the next column, you'll see a column around program content. Remember those age groups, 12 to 15, 15 to 18 and on? In each of those categories, our content has to grow, has to mature, has to be able to be delivered in online delivery platforms, whether learning management systems or on your mobile device. And we really need to make that a priority this next year. And thank you for many of you that have already participated in some of these projects. And thirdly, even though the facility has had its most significant growth and expansion to date, we still have a few priorities we want to get done over the next 2 years, and you'll see that dollar amount is $380,000. Well, then I get to that fun column again that says what's already funded, and you'll see that of the growth priorities, we already have some significant commitments of $268,000 for 2021. So the invitation is for you to join in the journey, for you to be a part of this vision, you and your family. In a few moments, we're going to pray together and wrap up this amazing time together. But I want to encourage you to, as a family, to consider what God would have you do to participate with us. Perhaps you've received the booklet already, or if not, it's arrived virtually or digitally, and it will be arriving in a few days shortly. And inside that is an opportunity for you to respond. And the opportunities, just to remind you, is one, what would you do to be able to help us fulfill the goals for 21 and 22, to deliver the program to these students, both at the National Leadership Center and in the school program? Secondly, what would you do to be able to help us in our growth priorities that are outlined there? And so take a look at those carefully. Maybe there's a project you want to personally, or your family wants to wrap their arms around. We would love to connect you with that. Then also over to the side, there's a couple of ways that you can participate with us and just become monthly friends. We call them Gideon's 300. And I need to give a special shout out and thank you for all of you Gideons who continue to support faithfully every month. What would we do without your participation? And then a new area or category, we call it the Joshua Generation. And it's also a monthly gift, just at a slightly lower level that allows you to stay connected each and every month. I thank you in advance. I thank you for those that are praying. I thank you for those of you that have stepped in financially in the past. And as you pray and consider, I thank you already what you're going to do to walk with us in 21 and 22. God bless you.
Hey, thanks, Norm, for that great information about how we can all further partner with JH Israel, expand the footprint of what we're doing in Judea and Samaria. And we want to thank Heather for that amazing teaching, for her time. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your prayers, your support, and your encouragement as we have walked over these last 10 years. The story is not over, and we're going to say goodbye, actually, from Israel, where Eran Glaser is going to speak to us about the Shema and God's blessings. And we pray His highest blessing upon you and all that concerns you.
Every morning, when I'm coming to the National Leadership Center, I'm starting here in this point. This is the top of the mountain, and I choose that for two reasons. One reason is the fact that I'm feeling close to the Lord here more than any place in the NLC. The second, if you are going to be quiet for a minute, and I will be, you can hear the sound of construction, of building. Here is the sound, it's music for us, that is going to build more and more apartments, and more thousands of people are going to live here in the hills of Samaria. My prayer is starting with the Shema. And I start with Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Then I'm going to Tehillim, chapter 100. I read that, which is started with, make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all your land. Serve the Lord with gladness. And it's finished with, for the Lord is good. God is good. God has blessed us. Then I can start my day with feeling that thanks to the Lord, and feel that God is good. Thank you very much for your partnership, and I hope that you can find the time to come and to pray here with me in the hills of Samaria.